Good morning, fam. This is Ron Bell Jr., and this is our Monday Morning Minute. I'm Pastor of the Arise Church, and I'm so glad that you are hanging out with us for just a few minutes. So, last week, somebody sent in a Brussels sprout smoothie. Not so much. But this week, shout out to Miss Robin for sending in this recipe for pineapples, peaches, spinach, banana, honey, and almond milk. So we're going to go ahead and get started on that. And while we're doing that, check out the scripture. Here's the scripture right here. And then we'll go ahead and get going. So we had been talking about the case for Jesus in the series at Arise. And this week we talked about that text you just read in John, the 5th chapter, the 19th verse. In the text, Jesus has just finished healing the man at the pool of Bethesda. And, he heals the guy. The guy gets up, he runs in the temple, and he's all excited, super excited that he's been healed. And you would think that the Sadducees and Pharisees and all the rest of the folk would be just as excited that he was healed, but they're not. In fact, they get upset and go to the guy and say, well, who healed you? And the guy didn't realize it was Jesus. But when Jesus walked into the temple, he was like, there he is, it's that guy. And so they go to Jesus and say, how dare you be, heal on the Sabbath? This is, you shouldn't be healing on the Sabbath. They're upset with Jesus. And Jesus retorts, well, my Father's at work, right? It ain't like God took a day off. It's not like God said, okay, grace, mercy, favor, y'all go back to your stables. We're gonna take the day and relax. No, Jesus said, my Father is yet at work. And so he says these profound words in John, the 5th chapter, 19th verse. He says, I can only do what I see my Father do. Here is the interesting thing about that. He could have said, I can only do what I hear my Father do, right? That would have made sense. He could have said, I could only do what I think my Father would do. But he said, I can only do what I see my Father do. And it's weird because it makes you ask the question, well, when did the Father heal the guy who was lame? And then if you even go further, when did the Father walk on water? When did the Father turn water into wine? When did the Father do any of these things? Jesus is saying, I can only do what I see the Father do. And so it's weird because I think we have this interpretation of God, like we see God, like God is like this, kind of on the throne, like Wizard of Oz kind of thing, right? He's like in this distant galaxy with the fire and brimstone on one hand and the lightning bolt on the other, right? We have to bow in majesty to the glory of God, right? We see God as like this far away thing. And we see Jesus really as this relatable kind of, here. But Jesus is saying, I'm only doing what I see the Father do. And so the question is, when is the Father doing it? And here is the answer, and this is going to blow your mind. God is doing it now, right? God is yet at work all the time in your life. What Jesus has is what we call a kingdom perspective. Jesus is seeing God at work because Jesus is seeing through the perspective of kingdom. He's seeing God at work because Jesus is looking for God. He's looking for the actions of God. He's looking for what God is doing. And so because he's looking for God and looking with this kingdom perspective, he's seeing God at work. Here's what I want to share with you. God is always working in your life. God is always at work. In fact, I think oftentimes we ask the wrong question. So we ask this question. In fact, we used to wear bracelets in the past, right? We would say, what would Jesus do? And I think, it was cool. But I think the better response would be, our better question would have been, or is, what is God doing? Not what would Jesus do, but what is God doing? Because God is always at work. God is always at work. God is not just on a throne. God is right beside you in the middle of your circumstance, in the middle of your situation, fighting and working on your behalf. God is with you, right? And so what Jesus is saying is that because God is with me, I'm only responding to what I'm seeing God do. And so I know that in kingdom, there can be no sickness. So if God is with me and I'm in the middle of sickness, let me do what God would do. Let me heal somebody. I know that in kingdom there could be no poverty. So if I'm in the middle of poverty and God is with me, let me do what I see God doing. Because I know that I know God is at work. Yeah, how wonderful is that to get that God is always at work. God is with you, not just some faraway place, but God is with you right now. All right, listen, I'm going to add the almond milk to this smoothie. Spinach, pineapple, peaches, banana, honey, and with the magic of video. Here we go. Watch this. Watch this. Look at that. So we've got spinach, pineapple, peaches, banana, honey, and almond milk. Before I drink this, before I drink that, I just want you to get that God is always at work. And the reason why Jesus can say, I can only do what I see the Father do, is because Jesus recognizes that God is with him. And God is not just with Jesus, God is with us as well. And so when we pause long enough to look for God and to sense God, we will find that God is at work. And if we tap into what God is doing in the middle of our circumstances, whether it's crazy hell we going through or peaceful serenity, when we tap into what God is doing, then we will experience the power necessary to see success. So listen, spinach, pineapple, banana, honey, and almond milk. Miss Robin, bottoms up. It's sweet. It's sweet. It's sweet. It's good. It's good. It's sweet. So listen, I love you. I thank God for you. Join us every single week at the Arise Church, 12 noon, 2200 Baynard Boulevard, Wilmington, Delaware. We continue this series, The Case for Christ. And if you have a recipe for a smoothie, send it to me, and I'll try it out next week on our Monday Morning Minute. God bless. I'll see you soon. Peace.